you higher. Your love, your love, your love, never ending. Oh, oh, oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Ooh, oh, oh. You are my freedom. We lift you higher. You are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love, never ending. Oh, oh, oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Ooh, oh, oh.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves
tender to your word, that we would be able to respond to the things that you're calling us to do. Give us hearing ears to hear what it is you're calling us to obey and what it is you're calling us to surrender, and give us the courage and the faith to step into that. So Lord, we are here for you today. Lord, we give you our hearts in worship, and we ask for your blessing over today's message, over the tech team, over the worship team, and over the families at home who are watching. We welcome your presence here this morning, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen.
Hi, and welcome to our service. If you're new here, you may be wondering who we are and what this church is all about. Well, the heart of the matter is this. We're a group of people doing our best to love God and love those around us. One of the ways we express this love is through worship, because our God is truly amazing. He created everything, great and small, and his love for us is incredible, powerful, and completely unconditional. We also spend time looking into his word, the Bible, and receive practical teaching to guide us along his path in our everyday lives. But it doesn't end when the service is over. Throughout the week, we gather in groups to serve, pray, reach out to our community, and sometimes just to hang out and have fun. Life is full of challenges, and none of us are perfect. But we believe that's one of the reasons God has brought us together. We're all here to help and support each other through each step of life's journey, because nobody should have to travel alone. So thanks for joining us today. No matter who you are, we want you to know you are welcome.
To be with every single one of you. So glad that you would invite us into your home this morning. Always thrilled to get to be with you guys. Hopefully you've had a fantastic week. Go ahead and let us know how your week has been. Has it been a good one, a great one? Has it been one of those that you're just kind of glad it's over? Who knows? But let us know. So last week, we actually began a brand new teaching series entitled, who remembers what it's called? Anybody? Margin. We'll throw that up there on the screen for you. We began this brand new series entitled Margin, and the whole idea was that we're seeking to make room for what matters most. You may remember that last week I showed you the picture of our U-Haul that was packed full. We had all of these boxes that we were trying to get in there and make sure that everything was just jinged in and just right. And here's the thing, we showed you that picture with every nook and every cranny filled, and we made this statement that while that's okay for a U-Haul, so many of us are rolling through life that way. Packed, crammed, pushing everything to the limit, trying to get everything in that we possibly can. And as a result, there's no margin in our lives. There's no room to breathe. There's no space there to just take a beat. And we looked at the interaction between a woman by the name of Martha and her sister Mary, and their interaction with Jesus. And we discovered that if we really want margin, if we desire margin in our lives, that what we have to do is determine what matters the most. We have to take that time to say, this matters and this is not as important right now. We have to determine what matters most. We have to commit to it, even when others around us don't understand why we're making the decision that we are. Question why we're making the decisions that we are. And then we have to remember constantly to rest at the feet of Jesus, right? So, margin, that's what we've been talking about. So, let's define it once again, just so everybody's on the same page, okay? What is margin? Margin is the distance, let's say this together, between my load and my load and my limits. In other words, margin is that difference, the distance between what I'm doing and what I can actually handle. The things I've crammed into my life, my relationships, my finances, my schedule, the distance between my load, what I'm doing, and my limits, how much I can handle. Because here's the thing, we all have limits. I've got this for you today. I thought we might could illustrate it. I got some help from the fine folks at C&C Construction. If you don't know what that means, that's fine. My littles helped me build this. They actually went to work when I said, hey guys, I need you to build something for me that I can help people understand limits. So they built this fantastic bridge. They did a great job, and they had to build it to daddy's specs. So big applause to them, big props to them for building it. But here's the thing, this beautiful bridge that we have here, this is a representation of all of our lives. This is life. This is where we are, and it's what we can handle. And so many of us, what we do is we go through life and we recognize, hey, you know, I've got to do this. I've got a project at work. I've got these things going on with family that have to get done. We squeeze in soccer games, and we squeeze in dance classes and all of this stuff that's going on in life. We stretch ourselves financially, maybe a little bit more than we really should. And see, here's what's funny. Some of you right now, this is the difference in personalities. Some of you are watching this illustration right now, and you're like freaking out. Because you're like, I know what's going to happen. That beautiful bridge that his children built is going to break. And you're stressed. You're full on freaked out. Now, there's another group of you that you're watching this, and you're like, ooh, put another one. Do it again. Let's see how much more it can handle. And see, that's so many of us in life. That's exactly how some of us handle life. Some of us are like, let's just push it to the limit. But the reality is, we all know that at some point, this bridge is going to break. And there comes a point in all of our lives when we think, if I can just squeeze in one more thing, then I'll be successful. If I can just squeeze in one more thing, then I'll be happy. If I can just squeeze in one more thing, I'll make somebody else happy. And the problem is, we have a limit. And all it takes is that one last thing, and that bridge collapses. That right there is the understanding that all of us need to have today. We all have limits. Some of us, our limits, our capacity, it's greater than others. But all of us come to a place where if we keep trying to live at the limit, life becomes stressful and strenuous. And even the people that are like, let me see how much more I can put in, there's still a stress that comes in to our lives. There's still a breaking point that exists for all of us. So we all have to acknowledge those limits, and we have to live within them if we truly want to experience life-giving margin. Which brings us to today. Literally brings us to today, because today it's all about time. Say time. That was okay. I'm going to give you one more chance, because again, every single week I catch somebody with bacon in their mouth. So let's try one more time, okay? It's all about time. Say time. There we go, because here's the deal. We're talking about time today because in this area, we all have the exact same limit. We all have 24 hours in each day. We all have the same 1,440 minutes in every single day. We all have the same 86,000 seconds in a day. So the thing is, when we're talking about time, when we talk about life and scheduling, we have to recognize that each day the limit is already set for us. So then what do we do? What do we do if we want to experience margin in this area of time? To figure that out, we're going to go to the book of Psalms. So if you've got a Bible, go ahead and flip open to the book of Psalms. If you've got your tablet or your phone, just go ahead, open that up, and we're going to hear. Now, when you hear the Psalms, if you spent any time in this text that we call the Bible, if you spent any time there, you hear Psalms and you probably immediately think of a man by the name of David. But here's the thing, several of these Psalms were written by others, and this one in particular that we're going to look at today is going to be in Psalm 90, and it was written as a prayer by a guy named Moses. Yes, That Moses. That's the exact one. The one you're thinking of, you're like, is that the same guy? He wrote a psalm? He did. Let my people go. Same guy, okay? Moses. So you may say to yourself, why in the world are we going to talk about margin in our time by looking at a prayer from Moses? Well, first of all, Moses lived to be, does anybody know? Anybody in the room? Just right off the top of your head. How old was Moses when he was gone? Somebody got real specific. It's the Bible scholar on the front row here. Exactly, spot on. We'll just give it a generic though. 120 years this guy lived. Actually, it was 122, but 120 years that this guy lived. Okay, so he knows something about time. Real quick, does anyone watching today, anyone participating in FAC Online, anybody want to claim to be the oldest watching today? I know for a fact, Jack Roush, if you're watching, Jack is celebrating his 90th birthday this week, so woohoo to him. That's fantastic. But anybody, if you can beat 90 years this week, go ahead and claim that as we go. So Moses, he was 120 years old. A little historical background for you. Moses was a Hebrew who actually grew up. He was adopted into an Egyptian family, not just any Egyptian family. He was adopted into the family of Pharaoh. So the first 40 years of his life, he grew up a Hebrew in the world of an Egyptian. Things were good for him. He had everything that you could possibly want, everything that you could imagine. He had the slickest kicks. He had the pool in the backyard, the infinity pool with the rollover edge. He had everything you could imagine. This guy was set the first 40 years of his life. And then something happened. He found himself in a situation one day where he saw an Egyptian slave master actually abusing, beating a Hebrew. And something clicked in him, and as a result, he killed this Egyptian slave master, even buried him in a shallow grave in the sand. So as a result, he had to run. He was a man on the run. He had to get away because he found himself in this situation where now he was at odds with Egypt. So for the next 40 years of his life, he found himself in the middle of the desert tending sheep, right? Every day taking care of the sheep. And then all of a sudden, God comes and he appears to this man Moses another 40 years later, and he says, hey, I want you to go and do something for me. And Moses says, what? He says, I want you to set the Hebrew people free. I want you to set the Israelites free, bring them out of captivity. So he did that and ultimately ended up leading them to the very edge of their promised land, their hope, so that they could enter in to that place. So this is a guy who in 120 years has experienced a lot. Agreed? He's had a lot take place in his life, so he has some perspective on time. And then in Psalm 90, we're going to start in verse 1. In Psalm 90, he shares this prayer. And listen, I want to say this. We know that many of you watching, you're just exploring this faith thing. What we're going to read today, you don't have to be a Christian to appreciate the wisdom in these words. This one verse we're going to land on. You don't even have to believe that Moses was a historical figure necessarily to appreciate the wisdom in these words. Now, we believe that. We hold it to be true. But be encouraged and learn from these. In Psalm 90, this is the prayer of Moses. He says this, Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. He just means you are at the center of it all. You are in the midst of every bit of it. He goes on to say, before the mountains were brought forth. Some translations say before the mountains were born. Just beautiful thought. Or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. He's already speaking about God as being outside of time, from everlasting to everlasting. So there's this continuum. You can imagine this line that just keeps going both directions. And if that is time, he's saying, God, you are in all of that. Then he goes on in the next verse, And he says that God, from everlasting to everlasting, that's who you are. You return man to dust and say, return, O children of man. For 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday. One day when it is past. Or as a watch in the night, a watch just meaning a period of about 3 hours. So he's saying here, God, your understanding of time is beyond time. For you, 1,000 years is like a period between 12 o'clock at night and 3 o'clock the next morning. He continues. He says this, you sweep them away, meaning people, you sweep men away as with a flood. They are like a dream, like grass that is renewed in the morning. Listen to this. In the morning, the grass flourishes and is renewed, and in the evening, it fades and it withers. So he's talking, praying about time. Let's jump to verse 10 and look at what he says here. The years of our life are what? 70. Or even by reason of strength, 80. Yet their span is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. Aren't you glad that you came to FAC Online this morning to be depressed about how little time you have left? Anyway, moving on. Verse 11. This is kind of a weird verse, but he says this, who considers the power of your anger and your wrath according to the fear of you? Basically what he's saying here is just, if we understood who you really are, if we could grasp your awesomeness, your greatness, that your power, your anger, your wrath, if we understood that, we would give you the kind of honor that you're really due. And then we get to this verse. Moses prays, teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. So, through this prayer, over and over, we see Moses talking about time, praying about time. So today, if we want to see margin when it comes to our schedules, when it comes to the time that we have, then we have to start here. It's about time. So the commitment is this. So I will first number my days. It's about time, so I will number my days. Look at that. He just says, outright, teach us to number our days. I always like when I get to preach and I just repeat whatever the text says. That means if you got a problem, take it up with Moses. So anyway, teach us to number our days. When Moses says this, that word teach, in the Hebrew, it's just yada or yada, and it means to know. It means to make aware. So in other words, when Moses prays this prayer, he's saying, give us a knowledge, give us an awareness of the significance of numbering our days. Now, that's kind of a strange, I even talked to my wife about this. She was like, that's such a weird phrase. I said, I know, it sounds kind of archaic to say, teach us to number our days. But here's the thing. I want you to think about this for a minute. What does that mean, to number our days? On the most basic level, every single one of us do it. We all do this. You're like, what? What does that mean? Think of it this way, okay? When you're getting ready for a vacation, okay? Some of you, you're like, oh, praise the Lord, states are opening back up, and all you can think about is going on a vacation. Just you're ready to do it. You're already trying to find what hotels are booked, and some of you are like, no, I'm never going on vacation again. We love you all, okay? But when you go on vacation, what do? You start counting down the days, right? You start saying, oh, we've only got 90 days till vacation. We got 89. We got 88. For some of you ladies out there, hopefully some of you men too, this is the part where, gentlemen, you say amen. But for you ladies out there, when it came the point where you set a date for your wedding, you numbered your days. For some of you, some of our graduates, congratulations to you. You have finished up school. Some, you're close. You're getting there. You've just got a couple more weeks. We're excited for those who are graduating. We're excited for all of our students as you wrap up your year. But I can guarantee you this, you're counting down the days to the end of the year. Some of you are counting down the days that you have left to finish some assignments. But you count it down. Why? Because you know that there's an end in sight, and I have to keep that date in my mind, and I've got to work towards that. That's what it means to number our days. So we all do it, right? But what Moses is saying, the advice that we can glean here, the wisdom, is that we ought not live that way just in light of major events. We should live every single day with this kind of approach, numbering the days. Practically speaking, this is just sitting down, okay? If you're the practical type and you're like, what do I do here? It's just sitting down. It's saying I have this many days this week. I have this many hours in each day. And it's making this commitment. I'm going to make the most out of my time by making time for what matters most. You're like, Nate, that seems like a really obvious statement. But this is the challenge to me and to all of us today. Do we really live this way? Do we really live this way? Do we wake up and say, I'm going to make the most of this day by making time for what matters most? Carving it out with intention. Yes, there are days that means, that looks like, okay, I've got to sit down and I've got to carve out time for this project at work. Sometimes it means I'm going to intentionally carve out and set aside this time for my bride and for only her. I love my children, but I don't want to eat dipping sauces at every meal that come in a plastic package. Amen? So sometimes you have to say, I'm going to carve out that time. Sometimes it means that when 6 p.m. hits, you've got to say that I've set aside this time and those kids have my full attention. We're going to wrestle in the floor. We're going to play a game of Uno. We're going to snuggle on the couch and watch The Masked Singer. Whatever it is that you're going to do, you're going to carve out that time just for them. You're going to carve out that time and say, every single day I'm going to start it with Jesus. I'm going to make time for what matters most. I'm going to make time for rest. Some of you need to hear that one again. Make time for rest. We're going to talk about more of that in the weeks ahead. And it means leaving time for the whoops. Can anybody relate to that one? Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? The whoops. The whoops is that thing that you forgot you had to do. The whoops is that thing that you completely could not figure out, how in the world am I going to fit this into my schedule? The whoops is when lights go bonkers right in the middle of you preaching, and you just say, well, praise the Lord, we're going to keep on going. Amen? Y'all got to understand. That was like the biggest squirrel ever that just ran through the room while I'm trying to preach this point, and all I could do was do everything within me to keep preaching. I had to acknowledge it. Anyway, love our tech team. You guys are amazing. That was probably the power, and it's the devil. Let's move on. So you've got to make time for what matters most. You have to be intentional about it. Now, I know some of you, you're going to sit down and you're going to say, okay, this is the project at work. This is the time with my spouse. This is the time with my kids. And you're going to find time left over. And you're going to be inclined to say, but Nate, there's still so much space in there to do more. Hear me out, okay? We have lived in a culture, primarily Western, but especially American culture. We live in a culture that operates off of this particular formula. Check this out. Activity equals productivity. Let me put it another way here. Look. Busyness equals meaning and purpose. Some of us live in a place where we think if I don't fill every single minute of every single day, then I'm not productive. If I don't fill it up, then I don't have purpose. I have to be active. I have to be busy. So I just want you to take note of this, okay? I'm going to fix this formula for you from a true and accurate perspective. Look at how I fixed it here. Activity This means does not necessarily equal productivity. Now, I said it that way because sometimes our activity does lead to an outcome that we need for our family, for work, for our kids. But activity does not always necessarily mean we're being productive. Busyness does not necessarily mean that we have purpose and meaning in our lives. Can I just throw this out to you? Sometimes our days are so full that we don't enjoy anything because we're trying to do everything. We'll say that again. Sometimes our days are so full that we don't enjoy anything because we're trying to fit everything into that day. Make time. Number your days, because listen, even on a more powerful level, this isn't on the screen, but let me just read this to you. Listen again to what Moses says about us. He says, you sweep people away as with a flood. They're like a dream, like grass that is new and vibrant, renewed in the morning. It's like a newborn baby. That smell, you smell a little baby's head. It's just perfect and sweet and amazing. It's like that new grass in the morning that you can smell. But in evening it fades and it withers away. Verse 10, he said, the years of our life are 70. He goes on to say, if we're lucky, 80. James, who was a New Testament writer, wrote the book of James. He put it this way, life is a vapor. It's a mist. One day it's here, one day it's gone. Take account of that. Because Moses is putting this prayer in the context of, God, you are awesome. You are woven in and throughout the past, the present, and the future. You're in all of it. And I am but this speck right here. Remind me of my days. Let me number my days. Why? He prays it. It's about time, so I will number my days so that I may grow in wisdom. I love it when somebody else just preaches the message for us. When Moses just says, hey, listen, number my days so I may grow in wisdom. We're just taking his words exactly. So often in life, we fall into this trap. A trap where we begin to unwisely waste what is numbered. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those days, that limit that we have each day, and some of us have more days than others. We know that to be true. We begin to unwisely waste our time. We've all been there, right? We sit down in the comfy chair, because you got to have a comfy chair to scroll Facebook. And we scroll, and like, scroll. Oh, that's funny. Ha, 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 ha. Emoji. Scroll. And then 42 minutes later, we go, I got to fix dinner. All of a sudden, out of nowhere. And listen, I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. That trap that we fall into. Maybe for you, you're like, I don't do that with Facebook. I know. But maybe you watch cat videos on YouTube. I just love cats or dogs, Andy. I just love dogs. Just watch YouTube videos of dogs for hours on end. I just absolutely, or maybe it's unboxing videos. I do not understand those at all. Props to you if you do that and you've monetized your YouTube site, but I don't understand watching someone open a box of something that I don't have. Or maybe it's just channel surfing and you're just flicking through trying to find something, and 22 minutes later you realize with 189 channels there is garbage to watch on TV, and you've wasted 20 minutes. So many of us, we just waste our time. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's more like time just gets spent. Have you ever been there before? not necessarily wasting it, you're not trying to, but time just gets spent. There's laundry to be done. There's dinner to be cooked. There's homework that you have to do, or as a parent, you have to help your child do. Or there's running from here to there and all of these things that we have crammed in. But when we're intentional about numbering our days, when we really take account of the time that we have, hear me, we grow in wisdom that we might invest every moment and every breath with purpose and focus. Because when we have and acknowledge the limited supply of a thing, we're that much more careful with it. When we have and acknowledge the limited supply of a thing, we're that much more careful with it. I think we can all relate to that in the current crisis that we found ourselves in, correct? When you have and acknowledge the limited supply of TP that you have, you're that much more careful with it, right? I remember when I was dating Michelle, I knew if I was going out on Friday night and I wanted to take her out on a nice date, I knew that in my wallet I had $41 and I had 38 cents in my pocket. And so I knew going into that weekend, all right, we could go do this because I know it costs this much. We could go do this because it's free. And we could go, I'll take her on a romantic hike because it only costs $2 to park. But she loves the outdoors. She loves nature. So we'll do that. So that'll be really sweet and we'll enjoy it. And then I can take her and, okay, if I spend, yep, we can go to Harry's and Piggy's and we can get some ice cream and that'll cost me about $5.27. So I knew I have this much supply and I want to be able to accomplish this much and that I needed room for anything that may come up. That's the wisdom that comes when we treat our time the same way that we do that amount that's in our wallet. Or that supply of something that we have in our home. You say, okay, how? How then? How can I see that wisdom work and roll out in my life? What does growing in wisdom look like so I can see margin? It's as simple as this. Wisdom asks the right question. Okay? Are you with me? Wisdom asks the right question. If I were to say to you right now, hey, can you come and hang out at our house this weekend? Hey, can you meet us at Lashley's to grab some dinner? Or can we go to the beach and catch up? If I were to ask you, hey, can you do such and such this coming Saturday? Chances are that most of you would ask the question, Am I free? Am I available? If you're like me and you're wise, you would say, I got to check with my wife and see if we're free, if we're available. And the question would be, is anything on my calendar? And if there isn't, then, well, okay, yeah, I'm free, so let's do it. You'd ask, are we free? And here's the thing, hear me out. It's not that that's a bad question. It's just, it's not the best question. Maybe if you wouldn't be, am I free? It might be, well, is that a good thing to do? That might be a good thing for us. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's good. It's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. Let's do that. But the better question is this, and we've even put it in your notes if you've been printing out the notes. If not, you can jot this down. The question is not necessarily, am I free? Am I available? Is this good? The question is this, hear me. Is it wise? When it comes to my time, is it wise? You say, Nate, what in the world does that mean? We put this down for you, like I said, in the notes. But if you don't have the notes, jot this down. In light of blank, is it wise? You're like, Nate, you usually fill in the blanks for us. No, you have to fill in this blank, okay? In light of blank, is it wise. I challenge you, I encourage you, I beg you, when you're making decisions about your limited supply of time, number your days and then do this. Is it wise? It may look like this. In light of being away on business, is it wise for me to plan a fishing trip with the guys instead of spending time with my wife? The answer is no. I'm just going to answer that one for you. No, it is not. Is it wise in light of the fact that we've got 2 children in diapers right now? Is it wise for us to add this to our schedule? I'll tell you what I'm struggling with in my household. It's tough. I'm going to cry. I need to stop. In light of the fact that I have a 16-year-old and I've only got 2 summers left with him, is it wise to be out of the home doing this thing instead of treasuring that time I have left with him? In light of, is it wise? And remember this, margin demands that we learn to say no to some things. You remember that last week? We have to say no to some good things so that we can make room for the best things. There's no place that applies more than our time. Number your days so that you can live with a heart of wisdom, so that you can grow in wisdom. Because here's the thing, as you number your days and say, this is what I need to accomplish this week. This is where I need to invest my time. What I love is that for those of us who are Christ followers, he'll even begin to bring more clarity into that. He'll bring a wisdom to us that is beyond just sitting down and us numbering our days, scheduling it out and saying, I don't know if this is best. He'll actually bring clarity and focus into our lives and say, no, this is where you should invest your time. This is where you should pour out your life. And if you remember last week, we talked about the consequences of not having margin, and that's that stress does what? If we don't have margin, stress goes up. Well, what's great as we begin to number our days and grow in wisdom, we discover this margin, and all of a sudden, stress goes down. Now, instead of cramming my schedule full and just barely making it to the next meeting for work, now I may get there 5, even 10 minutes early. Can you imagine that? Living in such a way that you get to sit and breathe before you walk into a conversation. Now the stress goes down. There's time to play Monopoly with my kids because I made time for what matters most. And also when it comes to the relationships, we said last week that when we don't have margin, relational intimacy goes down. But as we number our days and grow in wisdom, relational intimacy goes up. I'm focused on those with whom I'm sitting in a room in the moment because I'm investing my time. They have my attention. They have my devotion because I'm not consumed with what's next. That's why we do this. And ultimately, we do it for this reason. There was a lady by the name of Bonnie Ware. I actually heard another pastor, Pastor Andy Stanley, share about her and a message about time and understanding time and how it relates to margin in our lives. But Bonnie Ware, she actually wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of Dying, A Life Transformed by the Dearly Departing. You say, this sounds depressing. Hear me out. Bonnie Ware was a palliative care nurse. So what she did was really just help people with their last few weeks or months or even days of life. She was just there with them, comforting them there. Alongside their bed, wiping their brow. That's what she did for years, decades. And at some point along her journey, she started to notice something. And so she actually began to conduct interviews with some of these people that she was caring for. And she told them why she was doing it. She said, I want people to see the importance of this. And so she asked them, what now is your greatest regret in life? What now is your greatest regret in life? And time again, the same 5 answers came up. And I want to share with you the top 2 that she had. And number 2 would be the one that you might think would be actually number 1. Number 2, the top regret was, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I hadn't spent my whole life trying to climb a corporate ladder, to make more money, to have more things that in the end I never got to enjoy because I was always trying to get more. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. This is what's interesting. Number 1, the top regret of those that she interviewed over years was, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. In other words, I wish I hadn't invested my time, my life, into everything everyone else thought I should do. Here's the thing. If you don't make the decision today to number your days so that you can grow in wisdom and experience margin, if you don't make that decision, someone else will make it for you. And you'll find yourself living a life that was never yours to live, wasting your days for someone else when God has called you to so much more. If we don't learn to number our days, we will end our days with an avoidable regret. Plain and simple. So, what do we do with this? You remember the card from last week? You remember it? The margin card looked like that right there? Yeah? Listen, if you didn't print that card off already, you need to, okay? Go ahead and print that card off. They'll put the link for you right there. It's on our website. You need to practice this. It doesn't do any good for us to take this time on Sundays together if we aren't going to do something throughout the week. So this week, you're going to print off that card, or you're going to download a digital one that you can drop some text boxes into. And this is what you're going to do. When it comes to your time, you're going to make a decision. What do I need to add to my time? What do I need to take away? What do I need to do less of, and what do I need to do more of? You say, Nate, this is just like so elementary. Yeah, but this is margin. This is living a life that God has for you so that he can work in you and through you. And even those of you who are like, I don't know where I am on this, just give this a try. Okay? For some of you, it might be that what you need to add is regular time with God. You're not doing that right now. And you're wondering why your life is like just chaos and tumult and just all over the place. I challenge you, maybe go ahead and put that one in to what you need to add to your schedule. Regular time with God. That you sit down, you read something out of here, you pray, you listen, regular time with God. What are you going to take away? For some of you, it may be that you need to put a person in this blank. I need to spend less time with so-and-so. I need to spend less time. I need to remove that person from my life. I need to remove this habit from my life. I need to remove, maybe for a season, you need to remove social media from your life. Maybe you need to remove playing video games when you should be hanging out with your spouse. I don't know. Whatever it is, fill that in. What is it that you need to do less of? Maybe for you, you just need to spend less time on social media. And then more of with your spouse, more time with your kids, whatever it is. Fill that out this week. Take some time to pray over that and continue to say, God, show me. Show me how and where I can invest my life. Amen? I want to pray for you today. And I especially want to say to those of you who have been joining us, and maybe you're still in this place of what does it mean to follow Christ? Hey, we are here for you. We can answer those questions. We want to answer those questions. You want to know, hey, I do want to begin a relationship with Jesus. What do I do next? Listen, you can email us. I can tell you right now, if you want to reach out to me, you can email me. If you want to reach out to one of our pastors, I know I was talking with Pastor Steve Tull this week. He said if you want to email him, stevet.firstalliance@gmail.com. You want to know more about how you can get involved in a group, whatever it is. Don't let today pass without making time for what matters most. Let us know how we can help you in this journey, this relationship with Jesus. Jesus, we thank you for today. I thank you for these amazing people, every single one of them that have joined us online. I don't believe it's a coincidence. I believe you brought us all together here for a reason today. And I know without a doubt, if we'll just open our hearts to you, you can do an amazing work in our lives and through our lives. Let us be a people this week that would commit to numbering our days, recognizing how valuable, precious, and fleeting time really is. And let us respond accordingly to that call. Let us grow in wisdom and understanding about how we cannot just waste our time or even spend our time, but invest it in our family, our friends, and those around us. Invest it for you. Lord, we love you. And we count it a privilege to be able to have been together this morning. I pray for those who may not be in a relationship with you where they're following you and praying to you, that today might be the day that would begin. Give them the courage to send us a message, send us an email, so that we can come alongside of them as they begin this exciting journey with you. We thank you again. We pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. Hey, listen, thank you again so much for joining us this week. I do want to offer you a reminder, just in case you didn't catch it or you saw it and maybe it slipped your mind. Go ahead and jot this down. Tomorrow, Monday, from 9 o'clock until 12 o'clock, we'll have a few folks here, some of our staff on site, and we are actually doing a diaper and baby wipe drive for those who are in need, not just in our area, but throughout Southwest Florida. So we want to encourage you. Maybe you've done that already. Swing by between 9 and 12. Maybe you forgot about it or didn't realize that was coming up. Take some time. Go ahead and pick some of those up. Swing by, see us tomorrow so we can see your smiling face and wave at you, and so that we can bless others during this time. We love you guys. We're praying for you this week, and we hope it is a fantastic one. Make margin in your life this week. God bless you.
Thanks again for choosing to spend time with us. We hope you were blessed by the message you heard today and will carry it back into your circles of influence. Remember, there are several ways you can connect with us here at First Alliance throughout the week. Check out our website and Facebook page for more information. Until next time, know that you are loved.